A lot of people are saying that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to run for president. She'll be 35, which is the constitutional age requirement by the time the next election comes around. And she's been touring the country with Bernie Sanders on this Fight Oligarchy tour. Although I would love for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to actually define oligarchy, but we'll get to that later. Here's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez last night at the rally. See if you notice something a little different about our AOC.
Donald Trump is a criminal who was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, liable for sexual abuse. Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too. When he talks about rapists and criminals, he should look in the mirror.
Wow. First of all, on the substance of the claim, this is amazing. Why didn't they do this during the presidential election? Biden and Kamala and all the surrogates, they should have just gone to rallies like this and called Donald Trump a felon and a rapist and a criminal. And I mean, that would have been effective. That really would have changed voters' minds. See, that's all they did. It's all they did. Wait, who are you convincing with this? This is literally a talking point from 18 months ago that never worked. In fact, it helped Trump. They talk about preaching to the choir, and boy, what a choir it is. This is in Idaho, Nampa, Idaho. I didn't know there was a Nampa, Idaho. Now, the only reason I bring up the location, the geographic location, is because usually we see Democrats do this all the time where they change their accent to accommodate and ingratiate themselves and pander to the audience that they're playing to. Hillary did it all the time, right, with her fake Southern accent, and Obama did it, and Kamala did it. I mean, that's what they do. They pretend to have a Southern accent if they're in front of a Southern crowd. They're so genuine and authentic, aren't they? So this is Idaho, but I don't know what this accent is. I almost feel like she was watching some BBC drama. Was she watching Downton Abbey in the hotel before she came out here? Because it almost, I mean, let's watch it together. Can you identify this accent?
Donald Trump is a criminal who was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, liable for sexual abuse. Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too. When he talks about rapists and criminals, he should look in the mirror.
So I need you to help us out here in the live chat, if you're watching us live right now, or in the comments after the fact. What the hell is that? Do you have a guess? What country of origin should we be assigning this accent to? For a while there, I thought it was British. And then I thought maybe, I don't know, that weird sort of mid-Atlantic 1930s His Girl Friday sort of accent that a lot of actors put on back in the day, right? That over-effectuated articulation that you can't really define where they're from. Can you help us out here? Do we have anything? Has anyone on X, Kevin McMahon, our great producer, because I haven't been watching the follow-up on this, do people think this is Southern?
It's a big mystery.
It really is. Nobody can. Okay, there's one thing we know for sure. It ain't the Bronx. Or that's actually kind of a lie. I mean, she's really from Westchester County, which is not the Bronx either, but it's all sort of in the neighborhood, I suppose. But she pretends like she's from the Bronx. But I think we know for sure that this is not the Bronx.
Donald Trump is a criminal who was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, liable for sexual abuse. Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too.
What is that? It's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's a mystery, especially because we have evidence that, well, she's sort of dabbled in accents before, and it didn't sound like that. It sounded like this.
And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a 2-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life.
All right. And that, whoa, did you see how crazy the eyes were at the end there? Ooh. Oh. Gentlemen, it's always in the eyes. Gentlemen, I know that you get distracted by other things, but always, always examine the eyes. Ooh. So now that was not the Bronx either. That was Brooklyn. That's what that was. That was Brooklyn, or maybe Detroit. But I'm not sure what it is. Do we have any sort of consensus in the live chat on what this accent is? Communist. Yes, that's fair to say. All right, so what's going on here? Why do Democrats always use them? And by the way, again, I don't want to give them any help here because I want them to keep losing. But I got to be honest and real. They don't get it. See, we're past this. We American voters, we don't play this game anymore. We don't need you to pretend to be somebody else because it makes us feel good about ourselves. All right. We don't need you to lie about how you keep hot sauce in your purse. We don't need you to pretend that you like bowling or hot dogs or going to games. We know better. We don't need you to fake your accent to pretend like you're from somewhere where you're not. Have you not understood anything in the last 10 years of American politics? We have reached the point now where we value authenticity, even if you're a jerk, even if you come across a little rough-edged, even if you break a national championship trophy in the Rose Garden, if you're celebrating the Ohio State Buckeyes, just be genuine and real about it. Okay? Don't say you're the boy from Scranton and then talk about how you're from Delaware all the time. Don't tell me that you were raised in a black church and raised in a Puerto Rican neighborhood and raised going to synagogue and raised celebrating gay marriage. And then at the same time, while you're telling me all of those things, tell me that you're a devout practicing Catholic. Biden was able to do all those things and none of us bought it. None of us believed it. That's very 30 years ago. It didn't really work then. And it certainly doesn't work now. If you want to know why, I hear it all the time. How can people like Donald Trump when he says these things and says that thing and tweets this stuff and tweets that stuff and he's mean and he's rude and he's obnoxious? And I'm like, well, yeah, first of all, he's a New Yorker. Have you ever met a New Yorker who isn't rude and obnoxious? That's sort of the thing. But he's not rude and obnoxious to everybody. In fact, he's pretty gracious to most people. But when you mess with him, then he will mess back. And we like fighters who defend themselves and defend us, because we had to watch a president that we kind of liked for 8 years who was called a warmonger and a criminal and a Hitler and a smirking chimp and a fascist and an authoritarian. And he just shrugged and smiled and went to the golf course. And yeah, I guess that was cool about him. But it would have been nice for him to defend himself and fight for himself, because if he doesn't defend himself and fight for himself, then he won't defend us and fight for us. And so we like that. And we like that he's authentic. Because if he were a phony, then he wouldn't fight back. If he was a phony, he wouldn't tweet things. If he was a phony, he wouldn't say stuff that is sometimes sort of a facepalm moment. But like it or not, he's genuine. And this, I don't know what this is, but it ain't genuine. You know, Tucker Carlson and the great Mark Stein had a segment about this when it first reared its head with Bernie and Hillary and all of this stuff, where they try to glom on to other people to try to take on their personalities and their traits to sort of make themselves more relatable. They had a great exchange about this. It's called code switching. Here, take a watch.
So I got to ask about this. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez started sporting a new accent while speaking at Al Sharpton's extremely tax-exempt conference last week. Watch.
The fight's been long, y'all. This is what organizing looks like.
That's right.
This is what building power looks like. I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ocasio-Cortez says she's from the Bronx, and she's always spoken that way. She says it was code switching and that her normal day-to-day voice is the fake one. But she's not the first Democrat to discover a long-lost accent when speaking before an African-American audience. You'll remember. Watch.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy.
Mark, if you patronized an audience that much, would you feel shame?
Well, look, in fairness, I'd say Hillary's terrible at it. Absolutely terrible. And Alexandria, if you're going to do it, you have to do it with, and I speak as a foreigner, so I can't tell the difference between Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and William F. Buckley Jr. All you Americans sound the same to me. But Hillary can't do it. And actually, I think that gets to the heart of it. Alexandria can get away with it in a way that Hillary can't, because I think for Hillary and Joe Biden, when he was doing, they're going to put you all back in chain. I think those people are saying, I want to be something other than white. Take my whiteness away from me. I'm Indian, like Elizabeth Warren. I'm Hispanic, like Beto O'Rourke. Or I'm just whoever I'm standing in front of at the moment, like Hillary. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, whatever you say about her, is doing it with a much lighter touch.
I think it's a fair
Hillary
point.
Clinton.
I wonder, though, we're roughly the same age. Didn't you grow up in a world where people were encouraged to be who you naturally are? When you were a kid, could you imagine living in a country where people are supposed to be ashamed of how they were born? I thought that was the opposite of what we wanted.
Yeah, it is. By the way, it's great to see that. I'm reminded how much I miss the Tucker face. I miss the Tucker face. I like the new show and all most of the time. I'd ask different questions of some of his guests now and again. I'm not going to lie. But I'm a supporter of the channel. I like independent media, but I miss the face. I wish he would just go back like once a week, do an interview in this format so we get the Tucker face, because the Tucker face is great when somebody else is talking. So there you go. It was code switching, and it's a thing. And back in the day, Stein thought that AOC was pretty good at it. Although it is weird that, listen, if you're just going to code switch and go back to, your Alex on the block accent, that's one thing. But whatever that thing was in Idaho, I'm not sure. By the way, beyond the accent, she's been on the trail openly accusing her colleagues of felonies. That's noteworthy.
We saw it just happen with Trump's corrupt and disastrous and rushed tariff scheme. We saw Marjorie Taylor Greene buy that dip. I got one question for her. How much did you make? How much did you make off of people's despair? How much did you make off that panic? How much did you make off of that suffering? No more. We can't accept it.
That's noteworthy when you accuse your fellow member of Congress of committing a felony, although I think that Congress has laws exempting themselves from all that insider trading thing. Not so in the White House, by the way. A lot of people don't know that, but when you go to the White House, you're not allowed to own stocks in companies. You're not allowed to direct any trades. You're allowed a few mutual funds, but you're not allowed to do anything to them. So as they accuse the White House of some kind of insider trading, buying the dip sort of thing, with the tariff bounce that we had last week, Congress conveniently has exempted themselves from all of that. I think that AOC has a legitimate question there, but instead of asking Marjorie Taylor Greene, she might want to turn to her right and ask Nancy Pelosi, that person sitting right next to her. That would be a good place to start those questions.